I was on the phone. He started out the conversation and talked about himself and his business for 50% of the conversation. It was about himself, about all that he's accomplished. It was about his extraction company, about all that he was doing. And by the 15th minute, the gentleman on the other side of the line, who had $24 billion to release, to do any kind of investment you possibly can imagine, said, "I have one question for you," and interrupted the young man and said, "Would you like any money?" That's what we deal with every single day. We deal with people in the most amazing industry that we have ever experienced. We've been doing business over 20 years in 20 countries, coaching in over 250 companies around the world. And we have found that there's nothing like the hemp industry. We are finding bigger successes, higher ROI. We're finding more revenue than any other industry that we've experienced. It looks like the .com was nothing compared to this. Farmers we met a couple of years ago made $80,000 net profit per acre. I mean, when you just throw some seed in the ground and it's 10 acres and you make $800,000 net profit, it's a pretty good day. That's a pretty good day. So we're seeing all kinds of stories. We're finding that these are the highest quality people that love business, that have ethics, that are all about collaboration. We found some of the worst trash that we have ever experienced in 20 years of doing business. These are low quality people, they're greedy, they're all about themselves, and they will scalp every single thing you do and steal it and make their own concepts. That's where we're at as an industry. We haven't matured yet because we've only been going a little over a year legally. So what we have is this huge quandary of, should you get into hemp? If you are into hemp, now what? What's the best way to do this? And so this is our second part of two, obviously, which is about investment. And what we did is last year we called over and talked to and met with over 100 hemp-based businesses that were looking for funding. And we learned a volume of information. And so people are asking, how can we get funding? Funding in the hemp industry is one of the easiest things you can possibly do. It's just following a formula. And I want to show you what the formula is right here. Yeah, I'm going to share with you our biggest secret right here. A1 plus B2 plus C3 plus D4 plus E5. How many is that? Plus F6 plus G. Yeah. Equals funding. That's what it is. It's so simple. It's so easy. And every person that decides to follow this gets money. What we find, however, is that people are coming from different industries believing that the truths of the industry that they're bringing can be directly applied to hemp. And unfortunately, it cannot. We have found so many areas over 20 years of doing business has absolutely no relevance in the hemp industry. It's because it's about a plant. Executive coaching was to help people to double your revenue. If you made less than $1 million last year, that's what we would do, and we would double company after company. You can't come and double a plant. How do you double a plant? It's all about the plant. And the people that come into this industry that are all about money, or they're all about their business knowledge, what happens is they don't get in the movement because they don't fall in love with the plant. They don't fall in love with the people, and therefore they're seen as outsiders. So we've seen people in all different kinds of categories that see the green rush, which, by the way, is still accelerating, right? It's supposed to be 25 billion now by 2025, and therefore it's not slowing down. This movement will capture you. But when it comes to finances, you need to understand what the criteria is in order to get funded. So when we talked at the Southern Hemp Expo in Tennessee, we talked about next level investors uncovering the capital that transforms your company. That was part one. And we talked about more on the character and integrity side, which is more important than having a business plan. That's what the whole point of the talk was. If your integrity doesn't align with the investor, you will not get funded. And by the way, investors have more intuition than what I was expecting. When I first started talking to them, I thought these were numbers guys, financial guys. They're not. They're intuitive. And so you sit across from them, you talk to them on the phone, they can pick up really quick whether or not you're talking figures and performance, or you're talking that you did it last year and you hit some hard knocks. So it's kind of been fun on a learning scale. So here's what we got for this. That was part 1, and now we're into part 2. Now we're filming this. We have people watch us all over the world. So here's what we got, the investor's formula, revealing the 7 criteria for funding your business. I've been talking about this now for almost 2 years, about the 7 criteria, and I don't reveal it. I have people all the time that will watch something or read something on our website, call me up, text me. I had a guy text me out of the blue. Don't know who the guy is, just, what's your 7 criteria for funding? I'm like, who is this? I never heard from the guy again. Welcome to hemp. That's where we're at. So we're here in beautiful Odell Brewing Company here in Fort Collins, Colorado, and we're going to talk about revealing the 7 criteria for funding your business, the investor's formula. This is part 2. All right, so in 2019, last year, the number 1 need in all U.S. hemp-based businesses was capital. So if we talk to 10 different hemp-based businesses, 9 out of the 10 asked for funding. That's where it was. It was right around 80 to 90% of businesses. It's from traditional agricultural farmers rotating their corn, wheat, beans to hemp, because we had that a lot, right? We had a ton of farmers get into the industry last year and decide not to get their $350 net profit for their corn. They wanted to make $100,000, right, on their 1 acre of hemp. And so what happened? They go to their bank and they say, I'm coming in for the 5th year because corn hasn't been doing well. But instead of $100,000, I'd like $15 million, please, because I want to plant hemp. And unfortunately, the banks were not really into lending money for hemp seed. It just didn't happen. I remember we were talking to our business manager at our branch in our bank, and I said, I saw a piece of property. I want to buy it, maybe put hemp on it. What should I not tell you so that you say yes? He says, oh no, just tell me you're buying a farm. Don't tell me it's about hemp. I said, but isn't that being deceitful? He goes, oh no, that's selective truth. I don't want to know that you're putting hemp on it. Don't come back here and ask for money for seed. Just buy it, and then next year, then we'll deal with it that you planted hemp on it. That was what he asked me to do. So, then you got small extraction companies. There were no big extraction companies last year. There was nobody doing 100,000 pounds of biomass per day. There were people cranking out 800 pounds in 3 shifts that had a hand crank. I mean, it wasn't that bad, but it was almost that bad. And then all of a sudden, what happened? They had this stacks and stacks of all this biomass from all these farmers, and nobody had dryers, and nobody had partnerships, and nobody had signed contracts, and all of a sudden the extractors are scrambling because they don't know what to do because they didn't have the money to expand, and nobody had anything signed, and then they're going to the investors saying, we need money, we need it now, we could make a killing. And the problem is that the extraction companies didn't know the 7 criteria. So when they came to us and said, hey, we want money, I said, do these 7 things. They're like, I'm not sure. Maybe. Well, I don't know. Maybe next year. I don't know. We'll just lose the money this year. So that's where it was. They were wanting to expand in order to cope with the massive amounts of biomass. Therefore, funds have been underutilized with seemingly no opportunities ahead. There's more money today in hemp than ever before. Last year, 2019, March, NOCO Hemp Expo, the CEO of the largest hedge fund in the world, stated that they would be investing $1 trillion in the hemp industry over the next 36 to 48 months. If you weren't there and you didn't hear that, you didn't know. Money's not a problem in the industry. There's no amount of money to get in the industry. It's understanding about business acumen and business skills in order to get the money easily. So it's really easy to get investments. So the main reasons why finances were not released to business owners can be found in the investor's formula. It's the formula I just wrote right here. This is the way to get funded. If you follow it, you get funded. If you have one part missing, you don't get funded. It's really simple. If I had $1,000 and I said this to you, I would like 10 business cards from you and I will give you $1,000. I will have people in the hemp industry bring me 9, bring me 1, bring me 3, cut up 2 and put them together. And I will have all these different styles. I'm like, if you'll just bring me 10, I'll give you $1,000. And it's in ability to cope with following directions. This was something I've never experienced in my life, of coaching 250 different leaders, Ford Motor Company, IBM, all these different companies. Executives know how to follow directions. It's called implementation. But in the hemp industry, it is still the wild, wild west. It's just go out there and wing it. And it's awesome. But if you don't know how to follow directions, you're not going to get funded. Because it takes 10 cards to get $1,000. If I said this to you, if you bring 10 cards, I'll give you $10,000, you might listen more. If I said, if you bring me 10 cards, I'll give you $100,000, maybe everybody would listen. However, if I said, I'll give you $10 million for 10 business cards, people lose interest because they think it's too difficult. So we're going to talk about what this investor's formula is. So last year in 2019, we interviewed over 100 plus hemp-based businesses that were looking for funding. Some had amazing concepts. I mean, we hear this all the time. I have got the patent on IP, which is the best in the hemp industry. It's better than Google. If you get in now, you can invest in this idea. And people are coming up with some of the most amazing concepts. We have never seen these kinds of products in our lifetime coming out through it. It's awesome. They've got great concepts. Others had collateral, and they said, I've got a couple houses. I have a rental company. I can use that as collateral. Some had signed contracts for future income and said, listen, I got $1 million contract here. Can I get money on that? And they all have these different concepts, but only 3% were able to be funded because 97% of them missed one of those criteria. That's why they didn't get funded. Otherwise, everybody'd be getting money. So here's the top 10 reasons why the majority of hemp-based businesses were not funded in 2019. Because I don't know about you, but I wanted to boil it all down. Well, the first one is very obvious. That's why you're sitting here. You want to know about actually how to help other companies get funding as well. That's why you're here. Number one, they didn't know the 7 funding criteria. So when I would ask somebody, what do you think it takes to get funded? I would have one person say to me, oh, I will send you our 179-page business plan. He didn't know this, but our investors have already given us the number of pages that is maximum, and if it's over that, they won't even look at it. In fact, they will go behind, they will just go like this and go, I'm not looking at it, it's too many pages. If you don't know what that page number is, and you give me a 179 page, it will stay in my email box and I won't open it because I don't care how big your business plan is. It's awesome to have a book, but that's not what investors are looking for. Number 2, they did not meet the 7 criteria, so they didn't know what this funding criteria was, then they didn't meet it. Now, here's an important one. They didn't follow the 7 funding criteria after it was explained. So if I said to you, hey, you've got A, B, C, D, F, G, all you need is E, and you can get funded, and you go, I don't think I want that million. Then I can't do E for you. It's your company. You have to develop it. So what we're finding is, because it's so hectically busy in the hemp industry, for you to be here, if you're full-time like we are in the hemp industry, you are busy all the time. I mean, we have things coming in from Alignable, from LinkedIn. We have things coming in from Facebook. We have emails coming in. We have phone calls and texts coming in. We are constantly bombarded with people that want our business services. To have an event and to stop your life for an hour and a half and have a beer and have something to eat and network means that you are stressed out. Some of you are a little stressed out right now because your inbox is filling up. Everybody's hectically busy. To actually go back and do E takes a lot of self-discipline. It means you can't do the things that you need to do that are urgent, and sometimes E isn't always urgent. Next, they did not listen to what the investor's request was. So sometimes this formula is perfect and they got everything, and then the investor asked them a question that's kind of over here that you don't expect. They're like, well, could you do this for me? If you could do this, yeah, you can have the 10 million. Really? Yeah. And then they don't do that. They hear it or they listen to it, but they don't hear it, which means they don't do it. So that's an important one. They didn't listen to what was requested. They did not have enough urgency to alter the current documents to fit the 7 criteria, because almost all of these have to do with your documentation. So I think there's a concept out there that a great idea gets you funded. That if I have a brilliant idea and it's the next Facebook, that everybody's going to want to get, everybody's going to get and want to get in on it and pay money for it. And everybody's got the next best thing. I have signed more NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. I've signed more in 1 year in hemp than 20 years in business. Because everybody's like, I have IP. Will you sign this before we talk? Will you sign this before you talk? Guys, the NDA is only as good as your signature is, that you're not going to steal that person's. People steal stuff all the time. Look at all the new hemp genetics that just came out in the last 12 months. And somebody took this seed and decided, oh, I'm going to change the name and change one little aspect, and then it's mine. We have all kinds of stuff going on. So, that's number 6. All right, number 7. They did not match the level of integrity expected from the investors. So if you have a person on the other side of the line that can release $24 billion to give you any amount of money that you get funded in your business or your friend's business or whoever business you want to do, and you don't have integrity that matches the level of money, they can tell on the phone. So one of the truths about investors is they do their due diligence. They may like you on the phone, you may have everything there, but they're going to do a background check on you. And if you are in trouble with the SEC, or you have gone to prison because you did something under the table, and you don't share that up front with the investors and they find out about this, you will not hear from them again. It's just there. And so this has been a real seedy industry. Hemp has been a very seedy, not to make a pun, but a very, what's another word for seedy? And kind of, people look at you funny. Shifty, sketchy, thank you. Because you have a lot of people coming from the cannabis side that were doing everything illegal, and now they can finally do it all legally. And so sometimes when you go to an expo or a business meeting, you never know who you're going to meet. Now for me, that's fun, because I love hearing the stories, and I love asking people, so how long have you been in hemp, or how long have you been in cannabis? And the person goes, legally or illegally? Because I said, no, I want to know the whole story. And I get all these amazing stories. And by the way, if you've been on the cannabis side, it just means that you can now get funded a lot easier on the hemp side, because it's still a little bit difficult since the government hasn't legalized it nationally. Number 6, they did not understand that ego is the main reason why funds are denied. When we started developing the formula how to get funded, and we were talking to 11 different investment companies of how they get people funded, here's what we found. If you have all the right criteria and you're a prick, you won't get funded. This is really interesting. If you're a jackass, if you're a jerk on the phone with a $24 billion hedge fund manager, he won't fund you, even if you have an incredible company that's making a killing financially and all of your documentation's in order. They won't fund you because they don't have to. Now, this is something that's been shocking to find out. People in other industries, when they get funded, you know what they say? Oh, I'm so lucky to get funded. This is awesome. People gave my company money. And they're so thankful, and they celebrate. They get all their family and friends together. It's such an honor to get funded in general business. In the hemp industry, it is the exact opposite. It's any investor would be lucky to fund in me and my business, because look at the stuff I've done. That investor hasn't done anything like what I've done, and look at my IP that I've protected. And there is just this feeling of they would be lucky to give me money, and therefore, oh, there's plenty of money out there, so if they don't give it, it's okay. And that has to do with ego. If your company has a lot of ego in it, please don't contact us and ask us to help you get funds. The answer is no, because the ego is picked up on the phone with the investors. Because you know what? They have seen 100% ego and 0% ego. And they know what percentage you're at when you talk to them on the phone. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's an ego tone, where it's just like, how you doing? You'd be lucky to give me money as an investor. I don't know what that ego tone is, but there's some ego tone that when the investor hears it, she now loses interest in giving you 1 penny. So it's interesting to hear what people say after 100 different companies when you've talked to them, all the different things that they say. Number 3, they did not take the time to hone their phone pitch, which creates confusion. This has happened over and over and over and over again. So all of a sudden you talk to a person, you vet them, you hear what they want. They want $1 million for this, or $500,000 for this, or they want 10 million or 50 million, whatever they want. And you say, what do you want? No, I want this. And they're very clear with you on the phone until you get the investor on. So the investor says, tell us a little bit about your company. Okay. What are you going to use the funds for? How much do you want? If you say this number dash through this number, you will not get funded. Because right then, you've created confusion in the investor who is trying to find a number of value, of worth that they're going to give to you. So if you say, I want between 500,000 and 45 million, that's what I would like. Okay, they're going to say to you, call me back when you figured it out and let me know how much you want. Because if you don't know how much you want, guess what takes place? You've created confusion in the multi-billion-dollar hedge fund manager and anybody else you talk to because you're not clear inside your mind. This is true with sales, with marketing, with everything you do. If you're not clear, you won't accomplish. 2, they did not realign their expectations. There are more investors in this industry than any other industry I've ever seen. There's money walking around everywhere. It's crazy. It's like, David, I have people all the time. David, I got $1 million. I met with a guy a couple weeks ago. I got $2.1 million. What do I do with it? Should I invest in hemp? I'm like, absolutely. You should. Of course you should invest in hemp. We've got 5 companies right now, and maybe 4, maybe 2. We have 1 company right now. Because here's the thing, that formula it has to align with what he's wanting to do. What do I mean? I mean, if you have the thought that there's tons of money out there, then here's the question. How much of that money have you been able to secure? I know people right now who do not have a business open that's able to secure funds for their business because they're so persuasive and they're so clear in their mind, and when they talk, other people want to give them money. I remember our first business consulting contract was up in Oregon, and I call them the napkin investment. And I remember the gentleman we were working with, he said, hey, look at this. And he showed me a napkin. On it, it says, I owe you $50,000 after harvest, signed his name and the name of the other guy. So he came and he brought him, this other guy, an investor, brought $25,000 in a Walmart bag, gave it to him, and he said, here's, I owe you $50,000, so I'll double your money when harvest is done. That's investments in the hemp industry. That's what it was last year. Hopefully you're a little bit past that. Number 1, they did not truly desire to become funded. This is the most important one. After our 50th call with people that were jerking our chain that said they really wanted money, we decided to do something unique. We said, you know what? It's great to talk to 50 different companies. It's a lot of fun. We're learning lots of stuff that's great, but nobody's truly serious. How do we do this? Oh, why don't we charge? This changed everything in our company's whole formula. This is what we do. We have a half-an-hour discovery call with them on the phone. We have 7 questions that we ask them. How do the 7 questions? If we believe there's an 80% chance we can help get them funded, we say, here is our fee. It's $2,500 upfront for the application and processing fee. And if the person says, oh, that sounds fair, that means they've either have an MBA. Let me say that again. When they think that $2,500 is absolutely nothing to get their money, they either have an MBA or they've been in business over 20 years. Because they know $2,500 to get finances is nothing. There's a belief out there that because there's so much money in the hemp industry, that it's easy to get and it's cheap. It's the exact opposite. It is more expensive to get hemp money than any other money you can go. You cannot go down to your bank account, bank manager right now and say to them, I'd like $5 million for my hemp farm because I want to do these things. They're going to say, I'm sorry, we don't do that. They can't give you a loan at this point. They may in the future, but not currently. They may close your account like we've had other clients have. All right, so look at your notes there. You should have your notes. It should be on page number 1. And we have on there, what are the 7 funding criteria? And what are the 7? So why don't you